Now it's like, you disagree with me, you're a monster. End of you, whatever.
Do you feel like there's a similar line when it comes to people like Fuentes? Or you're not sure, or do you feel...
I wouldn't talk to a guy like that. It's wasting time. If you're going to expose his idiocy in front of all his followers, then,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that somebody like Fuentes, because they're illiberal, is somebody that has like a fundamental incompatibility with my belief system. I mean, like your dad said, I think everything should be argued and debated. I think it's fine to debate like fascism or communism or whatever, because you should be able to defend liberal ideas. But I mean, it would be at some point.
What? That's not true. Who told you that?
I don't believe you.
Oh, okay, wait, no, I'm defending myself right here.
How's it going?
Hey, listen, first of all, many thanks for being a friend to my daughter.
Yeah, no problem.
She doesn't have any friends.
That's not true.
No,
so
she has a
mean.
shit ton of friends.
Okay.
But she appreciates your friendship.
Cool.
And I appreciate that you are friends.
Thanks. Well, I try my best. I'm a friendly person,
Even though I'm a libtard?
No, that you helped him get those signatures. So what were you doing? You were canvassing.
We're canvassing, yeah.
In Georgia. I'm just kidding. I like to joke a lot, and my sense of humor oftentimes pisses people off or they don't understand it.
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry. You're in good company.
I'm not losing any sleep over that.
No. All right. Well, what are we chatting about today?
I don't know. Andy just told me that she would like for me to tell you my view on centrism.
Yeah, what the center is.
What the center is.
We strongly disagree on this.
And I a long time ago I was thinking, about this subject. So I figured, the thing that you got to hold on to something, or you got to have a belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then part from there. So with regards to where we live, assuming we're in the U.S., we grew up here and everything. So basically, what sets the center, what establishes the rules, is what sets the center, I guess. So I say, the U.S. Constitution is a document that basically sets the rules of how we're going to live here, and what we can and what we cannot do.
Okay.
So I think it's a brilliant document. It's been misused on both sides, but when you boil down, or you strip down all the major issues.
Yeah, when you strip it down, you realize the document.
No, hold on, sorry. Oh my God, I don't know how you got here. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
You got somebody invading.
No, don't worry. He's muted. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Repeat what you're going to say.
Are you trying to Zerka?
So when you strip it down, all the major issues, like say, for example, slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You see that the Constitution really doesn't allow it. So, because somebody gave that example last time I was here talking with Andy with Pxie.
Mm-hmm.
They say, the people that were pro-slavery were centrist at that time, so it doesn't really apply. But my point was no, because they were not really following the Constitution.
I mean, that's kind of. I mean, I feel like they. I mean, when we say following the Constitution, isn't that kind of up to the subjective interpretations of whatever the Supreme Court is at that particular point in time? Isn't that what Marbury versus Madison kind of settled, was the Supreme Court is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution?
Yeah, and then we get into judging or making judgment over things that happened many years ago, and we've certainly gotten better through the years.
Mm-hmm.
and we can take a look back and say they were wrong at the time. So that's another discussion there with what is being done today, that they condemn and they I'm having trouble translating today. I don't know why. They had labeling these people as evil people because they did not make the right decision back then.
Mm-hmm.
but it's sketchy and iffy. I don't agree with that because we weren't there. It was a different way of thinking back then. So at best we can say, well, they read it wrong, and they were wrong about it, and thankfully we were able to fix it. But expanding on the subject, the centrism, my biggest beef with when Pxie talks about it and some other people, it's like, hey, I consider myself slightly right of center, and I have my views and they're set and everything, and I believe in them and whatever. But then, if you or Pixie, for example, she goes way to the left,
Mhm.
then she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, you're super to the right." It's like, no, you move way to the left. You don't get to take the center with you. I'm here at the center. I haven't changed anything. You're the one that moved way to the left. So in that sense, the center stays. The fact that you move way to the left doesn't mean anything. It means that you're further away from the center. And it's an argument a lot of people use. I think, I don't know if on purpose or not, but a lot of people use it to justify that they're really not that far left because they're bringing the center with them. And then all of a sudden I haven't done anything and I am considered far right. It's like, no, 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 hang on. Far right is crazy, and I'm not there. I'm just right of center here. Nothing has changed. You're the one that's moved way to the left. Um, so that's basically it. That's my position on centrism.
Gotcha. I don't know if I care that much about like defining centrist, just because there's not much value that comes out of like in a conversation. If I'm going to argue with somebody about positions, I think I would just argue like what are we talking about rather than like are you centrist or not.
Yeah.
I think people have problems with the word centrist for a variety of reasons. One, as you correctly pointed out, is because some people use like the some people use there's an expression called the Overton window, which just means like how far or left or right are your politics in general. I think some people use the term centrist to try to like basically bully people into saying like, look at how far left you are, look at how far right you are.
Yeah.
But I think on another perspective, I think one problem is a lot of people like use like quote unquote centrism to hide their beliefs too. Like there's a lot of people that call themselves centrists that are really just like conservatives. They'll say like, oh, like I'm a centrist. And then when you figure out like what their beliefs are, they're like, yeah, I'm a centrist, but like I'm anti-LGBT. I voted for Trump. I hate all Democrats, etc. And it's like, okay, you're just a conservative, but you call yourself a centrist because people think that if you call yourself a centrist, you're above political partisanry.
Yeah, it's kind of like a virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Can you hold on a sec, Destiny? Andy, put the speaker so you can
No
hear.
tengo speaker, pero what I can do is I can
Andy can't hear you, and I want to.
I can put it on my phone. So what were you saying?
Destiny. Yeah.
Yeah, just that like sometimes people use centrist to bully people out of political positions. Sometimes people use centrist to virtue signal that like, oh, like I'm not partisan, I'm a centrist. And then I think, I think centrist is more kind of like a tool that people use to like fight with people rather than like engage in any like real legitimate discourse. That's what it feels like to me. But
yeah, I mean I think it's a bit of both. You're trying to define your where you stand in the most basic way.
Sure, but even defining where you stand, I think it's better to just like what are the policy positions? Because if somebody says, for instance, like I'm a centrist, it doesn't really communicate anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, it's just I know what you're trying to say, or what you're saying. And yes, talking about centrism like that in general terms doesn't really mean much. And when you start talking about it and defining it, I can see how it can turn into virtue signaling and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Andy, we covered that.
Well, what is it?
What else do you want to know?
Well, I don't think you're right when you talk about centrism being defined by like the Constitution. To me, that doesn't really make much sense. It seems like the center is defined by like both opposite ends, like what's in the middle over there, or that becomes the center. I don't understand why the Constitution is the center.
I see it as a like the rules of the game.
I think the problem is that like the Constitution provides for very far left and very far right people, right? Technically, we can exist under the Constitution and do things that are both far right and far left. So I think that's kind of where it's weird using the Constitution as a barometer for centrism. I think for centrism, I would just define centrism as like if we do an aggregate polling of all of Americans and we look at what their opinions are, we try to find stuff that's like roughly in the middle. So like a centrist opinion on abortion might be like allowing people to have abortions in the first trimester only, right? I think that like 90% of Americans I think are okay with that. But having abortions all the way to the third trimester, that's a very far left position. Or banning abortion completely or only leaving it up to the states is a pretty far right position. So like I can find like a center-ish position on that. Same things with like gun control and trade and other things. We can find like kind of center positions that align with the majority of American opinions. I think that's how I personally would define like the center.
Yeah.
But you don't agree with that.
No, I agree to a certain extent, and I mean and to Destiny's point, if you're gonna argue about abortion, it's useless to talk about the center of abortion because it doesn't really mean anything.
Well, I guess the reason why I think the center is important to define is because I think the center, like, nobody wants to live in the center ideologically because people don't generally see themselves that way. They want to be part of a political camp. But I think the center part is important to define for legislation purposes, right? You're probably not going to pass any far left or far right legislation. It's unlikely that we're going to get protection for all abortion, like federally in the United States. That's probably not going to happen. But we might be able to pass legislation that allows abortion through the first trimester because that aligns with like the majority of where Americans are kind of okay on abortion. So I think that's why defining the center is important for legislative success.
I think too that it's a pity that the way discourse has been the last year, couple decades, I say in the U.S. We really can't talk about abortion without either side being like heels to the ground and like, no, we're not moving for this, and you're fucking insane for thinking what you think.
Yeah, I agree, but I think part of the reason why is because people refuse to define like where the center position is. Like you've got people on the left that are defending like infinite abortions through the third trimester, which is ridiculous, I think. And then you've got Republicans saying that like all abortion should be banned, like except in cases of rape, which I don't even know how the fuck you would, I don't know how you would even defend that in front of a doctor. Like, do you have to prove that you got raped? Like, that just seems insane too. So I feel like, I understand why the conversation is hard, but it feels like it's just hard because people are always like fighting for the most extreme position rather than figuring out like, okay, well, what do most of us agree on so that we could actually write a bill that most of us would want to pass, I think.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, Destiny, where would you try or around? I know you said first trimester, but what do you mean exactly by that? Do you mean like at the end of 3 months? Do you mean heartbeat? Do you mean like brain activity?
No, I think for first trimester abortion, I think having legislation that says you can abort up to what is it, like 20 weeks or something, or 12 weeks or 12 to 16 weeks. I think like within there, I think is fine. I think that's where like the vast majority of abortions happen anyway. Isn't it like 95% of abortions or some insane number happen within the first trimester anyway? I think it would just be I think it's easy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby, you believe it shouldn't be until, or the heartbeat or whatever, like 6 weeks?
My personal belief is that you shouldn't have them, except for extreme cases like incest and rape and shit like that. But I'm totally bought into the notion that I can't force people into my belief, so I got to come to a compromise with the other side so we can reach an agreement where neither side is fully content with the outcome, but they're happy to live with it.
But you believe
so that
in
means
6
that
weeks for, like, because I remember.
I like Destiny said, I think the first trimester is something that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is it's hard because we want to feel like we're getting what we want morally 100%. But the reality is that in a democracy, especially around charged issues, we're like everybody's going to feel like they're getting a little bit screwed over. But that's probably a good thing. On some issues, like that's just the nature of living in a democracy where we're voting on really charged issues. You're not always going to get what you feel like is the best thing all the time. I feel like sometimes people think like, oh yeah, we're in a democracy, we need a diversity of opinion, but not really. They just want like a diversity of opinion around like, should it be like $20 an hour minimum wage or like, $25 an hour? Sometimes you have to compromise on things that you really, really, really don't want to compromise on. And I think that's hard to do, but it's necessary for a democracy to function, in my opinion.
I think that was the genius of the U.S., the formation of the U.S., that you had these people that, they all knew that they didn't want to be ruled by a monarchy or any shit like that. Mm-hmm. So they got together and they said, okay, we don't see eye to eye, but we're going to set up a system where we're going to have to come together and find common ground and move forward from that. And if people would get back to that, I think we'd see a lot of progress in all aspects of society in the U.S. But there, people are freaking digging their heels and not wanting to move. So we're getting very polarized, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything that shouldn't be given up, though? Like, do you have any position?
Yeah, of course. If you're going to ask, like, oh, what about slavery or rape? Like, there should be things that we have hard lines on. But I think abortion is one of those issues where it's like, we've had Roe v. Wade for, 60 years? And we're still hotly divided on it. And I don't think that abortion is as clear-cut an issue as, like, slavery or murder or rape. Like, there are going to be some things that we shouldn't compromise on. There probably shouldn't be any types of, like, legal murder or anything like that. But when it comes to, like, abortion, it's just such a hotly contested issue that is so morally personal and difficult to, wade through. Like, even philosophers are going to go back and forth, right? And there have been tons of papers that people have written back and forth on the arguments for it, that I think we're probably going to have to realize there's going to be some compromise. It's going to make everybody a little bit upset on it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, in modern day issues, I'm not talking about like slavery or whatever. I'm saying, do you think there's anything right now that people are debating that might not be, that maybe shouldn't be debated, or there should be a clear line drawn there?
Come again?
Are there any issues right now that people are talking about that you think there's no real room for, like, moral debate, that you think it should be just like this one?
I think everything should be debated. Oh. Everything. That's a big problem that we're having now, that we have people wanting to shut up other people because they don't agree, and they say debate is over. It's like, no, listen, you got to keep talking until, you get to where you want to get.
I think it's good as a society to progress in some ways. Like, I don't think we should be debating everything in society. Like, for instance, like, I think we're probably past, like, child labor. Like, I don't think, like, children that are, like, 6 years old should be working in, like, coal mines. That's probably a debate that we've moved past in society.
Well, of course, when the issue is settled, there's no more need for debate because it's pretty much settled.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that by definition, if there's a lot of Americans that are arguing over a thing that they disagree with, then it probably shows that there's still, like, a healthy amount of disagreement there that's worth having a debate over, I would say, in general.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You need to debate. But yeah, if somebody comes and tells you that child labor is something good and we should bring it back, then it's a stupid position. That's really, we all agree. Everybody mostly agrees that, except for crazy people, that children should be.
So I have a question, Poppy. Because of, like, the Constitution, blah blah blah, everything that's been passed, Supreme Court. You don't think gay marriage is up to debate right now, or?
I think, and if you read Scalia's dissent on that decision, he makes some very compelling points as to why that should have been debated more, and he felt that it was rammed through, and he didn't think that it was up to, this is a few of the things that he said that I remember. And he said it really isn't for 9 Ivy League educated lawyers to make such an important decision. It should be debated and discussed a lot more before you make a decision. And it should be on a law. It shouldn't be like the Supreme Court deciding what the law is. So in that sense, I totally agree with Scalia. Now, as I told you many times before, I got to be consistent with my beliefs. So if the Supreme Court decided it was such, then I have to live by it. and it's settled, and I wouldn't want it to be overturned later on, because at the end of the day, whatever, that doesn't do anything to me if the women get married. My original beef was more a respect for religion, which you don't have to agree with, but people wanting to change the definition to be included in something that they really don't fucking believe in. And I might be wrong, whatever, but that's how I see it. But now that it's settled, it's moot. So and it's not like that's another thing that's been missing. In the current times is the I can disagree with you, but nothing else changes. Now it's like, you disagree with me, you're a monster. You're end of you, whatever, because we don't agree on that one issue, and that's hysterical. It's stupid, it's childish, it's immature. It's like, no, we're not going to agree on a lot of things, but we're going to agree on a lot more important things. And the fact that we didn't agree in that gay marriage point, which is now moot, didn't make me a bad person, or didn't make me a bad father or anything like that. It's just like I saw things differently.
Do you ever feel like there's or how would you define somebody that you think isn't, I guess, worth talking to?
An idiot?
I guess, yeah. It's your destiny. Like, when do you decide someone is like either bad faith or even too far gone, if there's such a thing?
I mean, like, if there's going to be like some really fundamental moral disagreement, then it's probably going to be around that. It's going to be over some really fundamental moral thing, is what I would say. So, like, if somebody's trying to argue that like women don't deserve like the same rights as men or something, I imagine it's probably going to be really hard for us to ever find common ground. But yeah, I mean, it would depend on the issue, I guess.
Do you feel like there's a similar line when it comes to people like Fuentes, or you're not sure, or do you feel...
I wouldn't talk to a guy like that. It's wasting time. Or maybe and you're the one that told me that, I think. If you're going to expose his idiocy in front of all his followers, then,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that somebody like Fuentes, because they're illiberal, is somebody that has like a fundamental incompatibility with my belief system. I mean, like your dad said, I think everything should be argued and debated. I think it's fine to debate like fascism or communism or whatever, because you should be able to defend liberal ideas. But I mean, it would be at some point like a political party that represents Fuentes' interests would be very, very, very hard to be compatible with my ideals of how a democracy works, because they're fundamentally illiberal people. I think that's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess when it comes to people like that, you just would dissuade them, or not dissuade them. There's no reason trying to find a middle ground with people like that, right? Because fundamentally
they're ideologues, and you have them on the right and you have them on the left. So you choose when to engage with them, but most of the time you won't engage with them.
So, but what I'm asking is, we're talking about finding the center, et cetera, but you would agree, or maybe you don't agree with me, I don't know, that when it comes to certain ideologues, there's no point in trying to find a center, because...
Well, like I don't think you can find a center between like liberal and illiberal. Like you either believe in like democracy or liberalism, or you don't. Like there's not going to be much of a center position to be found there, I don't think. But, I mean, I think it's still worth like arguing or debating, but you're not going to agree fundamentally on anything, right?
So let's, because you're talking liberal and illiberal. So do you see a difference between liberal and progressive?
Yeah, sorry. When I say liberal here, I mean like property rights and like voting democratically and like freedom of speech. That's what I mean when I say liberal, broadly speaking. In the American context of like liberal versus conservative, yeah, there's a difference between liberal and progressive, sure. I don't know if many progressives anymore are liberal. I'm not sure, because a lot of them are farther left than that.
Mm-hmm. How progressive are you, Andy?
I just generally progressive. I don't know how else to say that.
Andy's super progressive. She doesn't believe in capitalism.
What? That's not true. Who told you that?
I don't believe you. You're a commie. I know you are. You're a commie. Absolutely you are.
Okay, wait, no, I'm defending myself right here. I have said multiple times on stream, and I will continue saying it, I don't think a for-profit motive is inherently evil. I just don't think everything is most optimally designed when it comes to for-profit. I think there's certain industries that should not be for-profit. So what does that mean? I think when the idea of what the industry is supposed to do or accomplish goes against direct conflict with profit, then it probably should not have a for-profit motive. So healthcare, for example, if you have that as the main motivation, then people are incentivized to not give you the healthcare that you need or the healthcare that you want, if it means that they get a bigger bag at the end of the day. So I don't think a healthcare system should be for profit. Similar with jailing. Now suddenly you have all these incentives.
Please stop for a sec. Let me jump in for a sec. The problem with your healthcare thing is that for it to work, you depend on people that go through a 15-20 year education to get paid and to make money.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to pay them money, and it's profit incentive for doctors are they want to save lives and everything, but they also want to make money. And you're saying, healthcare is alright, whatever, whatnot. We're gonna make a system that's not for profit. So these doctors, they don't have, they're not going to get paid what they should get paid.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to.
There's a couple of things here. You can pay people a salary, and that still doesn't make your organization or the system as a whole for profit, right? So when I'm complaining about for profit, I'm not saying, people want salaries. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that fact that, like, health insurance companies or hospitals are incentivized to basically rise the price as much as they can because they're not actually caring about your health. They're caring about their money.
Okay, that's and here is where I agree with you to a little extent. It's insurance companies gaming the system, and that's where you run into all these problems with hospitals raising costs and all that shit. So instead of making bringing in the government to control everything and to try to make it work, which never happens, and you cannot give me an example of government doing anything successful.
What about USPS?
The post office?
Yeah.
It sucks.
What do you mean?
They're in deficit, operational deficit all the time.
Have you seen like how much?
Well, let's not go on a tangent first. So instead of bringing the government to fix everything, which they never do, why don't you try to rein in the corruption with the insurance companies that are fucking everything up? And you can still have a profitable system where doctors get paid and everything. Because the bureaucracy is really what's killing the health insurance.
I mean, there's a lot to say here, but long story short,
I'm right and you're wrong.
No, because I'm thinking like even when it comes to like for-profit motives, like you still have to rein in hospitals as well because they also private hospitals have an incentive to still like jack up prices when it comes to like your care.
See, but a lot of those jacked prices have to do with insurance companies not paying them.
Yeah, no, it's like a terrible little cycle sometimes. Where both insurances and like private hospitals are incentivized to jack up the price.
You have non-profit hospitals that make money. So the end.
Well, yeah, they're making money. The question is like, is making this money getting in the way of giving people proper treatment? And when literally depriving people from a proper treatment can raise your profit motive, that's when things get like ethically complicated. And that's why I think we should have things like public option available because there's a lot of reasons why we should have public option available. But for one, it basically undercuts like private insurance, or it forces them to basically like lower the amount they're offering for people in general because now they have a competitor everywhere. You don't agree with me?
I kind of lost you there.
Okay. If we're talking about reining in profit motives, if you have a public...
But that's the thing. I don't want to rein in profit motives.
But you agree that the profit motives...
I want to rein in health insurance companies that are gaming the system. That's what I want to rein in. And we live in a capitalist society.
Why are they gaming the system?
Because of corrupt politicians and
but why are they going through all of this? Why are they going through corrupt politicians? Why are they doing all this?
They can.
Because they want money. Because they want to increase their profit.
So rein them in. Don't throw a grenade into the whole system.
Well, I'm not saying we should throw a grenade to the whole system.
Yeah, you are, because you're saying the government should take over and run everything.
Well, I'm saying that we should work towards that. I'm not saying tomorrow the government should take over everything.
And the government doesn't work.
Oh my god, that's where we disagree fundamentally. We're not going to get anywhere.
What do you
with
think,
this.
Destiny?
I mean, I agreed with what Pxie says, broadly speaking, about when the government should step in. I don't necessarily know if it's the best of ideas in healthcare. I think that the government has a lot of the same problems that that private corporations have. Like, people seem to shit on the government because it's like a big bureaucracy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you work for a large company, I mean, large companies can be very bureaucratic as well. Yeah, I don't know. I think that sometimes there can be external forces that make it so that it's really hard for a company to act in the best interest of a citizen. So this is especially true when we talk about things like pollution, because you don't get penalized for polluting unless the government does it. And I think in those cases, it's okay for the government to step in. Or when it's like a geographic monopoly, right? We can't have 20 different companies providing power or plumbing to like houses because you don't want to run the infrastructure over and over again, right? So I think in that case, it's okay. For healthcare, I don't know if the government is the answer, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, do you believe in public option or healthcare for all?
I like the concept of a public option, yeah. But I don't agree with the idea that like there's a disincentive to help somebody over like a life-saving service. Because like technically, like something that is really important to us, that's vital for all of us to survive, is food. And I think the free market provides like really well when it comes to food. Like, we've got tons of food at tons of grocery stores, and that's like a life essential thing, and we seem to do that pretty well. Same thing with like clothes. So yeah, I don't know. But it seems like for healthcare, some type of government intervention is important there, because every European country has it, and it seems to work better for them than it does for us. So
I think, I despise, I think I despise the government coming in to trying to fix things, because at the end of the day, it's the best of intentions, and they always seem to fuck it up along the way. And it happens basically with everything the government comes in.
Well, what about like when we look at like Social Security? I think the government handles that pretty well, no?
Is it? Yeah, but it's not enough money for the people that when they're old. It's not enough.
Sure. I mean, we can argue if it's not enough for now, but I mean, Social Security works pretty well, right? Everybody's under the system. The payouts are pretty consistent. Like, seems like that's like a really effective program. I'd say Medicare is a pretty effective program as well. Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, these programs, these entitlement programs, I recall they're running out of money, and they got to be funded and all that shit. It's not self-sufficient, or people putting money into Social Security to then get paid when they retire. It's not enough.
I mean, people have been saying Social Security is running out of money forever, but I don't think that's true. I mean, I think people have been saying this for decades. Like, the U.S. government can always fund these programs if we need to, if it like comes down to like dire.
So if the government needs to, keep funding it,
Mm-hmm.
then really not working, because the whole idea behind it was, you give money to the government, and then when you retire, the government gives it back to you.
Yeah.
And as generations come by, they keep feeding the system and everything. But now it's like, there's not enough money, and the government needs to come in and fund it. So I don't think, it works. It's not mostly, I don't think it's efficient. But
I think it's pretty efficient. Money goes into the system, and it comes out, and it's given to people, right? Like what? Like let's say if you want to be critical of Social Security, that's fine. But like, can you give me a private program that works anywhere near as efficiently as Social Security does when it comes to dispersing that much money to that many different people?
Well, that's the thing, and I think it should go to the individual. Mind you, I don't mind Social Security existing, and I think it would be stupid to blow it up. But I'll say if you let me take care of my money instead of giving it to you, Social Security, I think I'll do a much better job.
Do you really think so, though?
I can prove it.
Well, so here's a curious thing. Can you tell me what like line of work you're in?
I'm in real estate.
Okay. I don't know if it happens in real estate with down payments, but like, I guess the most interesting thing to me when it comes to people managing their own money is every like retail industry I've ever worked in, like your best days are the end of April, because as soon as people get tax refunds, the first thing they do is they blow the money 100% on some big purchase. Everybody does that. Yeah, I don't know if in real estate it happens with down payments or whatever, but I feel like left to their own devices, people aren't really incentivized to save for the long term. They just don't think that way generally. So having like some sort of mandatory government program where it's like, listen, you might not like it, but we're going to put away this money for you, and then when you retire, you get it. I think it's probably better than just leaving everybody to their own devices, I think.
And I agree, and and it's economic fact. When times are good and everything, people don't save.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to your point, I think at the end of the day, it should be something where, okay, I'll play the game. I'll give to Social Security, but give me some options or some parameters where I can take care of that money, and let me invest it for myself, and some sort of structure. And this is another thing that I've spoken with Andy, and yes, entitlement programs for a wealthy society are good. Not everything should be like socialist entitlement programs, but something like Social Security, Medicare, yes, I agree, and it's okay to have them. But I think they could be a lot more efficient. And I was going to go back to the example. My mother's just turned 91.
Mm-hmm.
Social Security, and I tell you, that is not enough. Her Social Security payment is not enough.
Well, yeah, but she gets Social Security and Medicare, though, right? To cover medical treatments as well?
Well, in Puerto Rico, it's a bit different.
Oh, never mind. Well, everything I'm saying doesn't apply as much to Puerto Rico. You guys are fucked, because you guys have to pay into a lot of U.S. stuff, and I don't even think you get to vote on anything, right? So I can't speak directly, I guess, to how it works in Puerto Rico. Does Medicare and everything not apply to people in Puerto Rico? Do you not get access to that, or...?
We don't get parity of funds. So we get less than, in terms of Medicare, we get less than like if she moved to the States, it would be different.
Okay, interesting, gotcha.
But like her, I know other people in the main. Well, I have an aunt that lives in the U.S. and her Social Security is not, and Medicare and all that is not enough.
Sure, but I mean, it might not be enough, but like, imagine their lives without Social Security or Medicare. Like, if it's hard to get by with Social Security, without it, they'd be what, like homeless? Like, it would be over.
No, totally agree. But the idea behind it is, we were arguing if it's an efficient program or not. My definition of efficient would be, hey, you put in all this money when you worked, and now you retire, and you can live off the Social Security. And the reality.
I mean, I would think when I think of efficient, I think of like, for me, efficiency means how much money is spent on the thing itself versus how much is lost to like bureaucratic costs. That's what I'm thinking. So I think Social Security is really effective because the bureaucratic costs are pretty low because the government has all of your information anyway. All they have to do is like mail it out to whatever address they have on file for like the IRS. So that's why I consider Social Security to be like a pretty efficient program. And I can't think of anything in the private sector. Like, if there was something competing with Social Security where it's like, this works so well, I wish we'd stop wasting money on Social Security and just do this, I think I'd be warmer to the idea. You're like, okay, yeah, let's just do that. But I don't see anything in the private sector that is even close to covering like how much Social Security does.
I mean, it's impossible because, you're talking about, private sector who, they're not gonna, I don't see how it would be possible through the private sector to manage retirement accounts for people that have low-paying jobs or medium-paying jobs.
Yeah, but isn't that just an argument for Social Security then? Like the government can step in and manage some things that the private sector wouldn't want to manage?
We're starting to go in circles. Yes, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
But again, yes, that system works for the mid-low-income earners,
mm-hmm.
but necessarily work for somebody like me or
But the idea, I think what we're like kind of getting at here is that we agree that Social Security works in a better than a private option because the private option doesn't really exist and it doesn't seem like there's any way to really compete. But if the government can efficiently do Social Security, not saying that there's not room for it to improve, but if the government can efficiently do this one thing, it seems like by logical extension of that, the government should theoretically be able to handle other things than just saying like, oh no, the government can't handle it at all.
Shoulda, woulda, should. That doesn't register. So you have Social Security, you have these entitlement programs, but then you have education, which is a massive waste of money, and it's not working.
I mean, better than not
really
having anybody educated, no?
No, it's well, what I've always told you, let the states run it. But you can't have a bureaucratic monster getting all this money and to Destiny's point, the bureaucracy behind it, how many dollars end up getting to a child? And then you have the teachers union in between fucking everything up because they're not looking out for the students, they're looking out for the teachers. So it's a massive clusterfuck of a bureaucratic monster of the federal government that's inefficient, and it doesn't work, and it's a waste of money. And we're getting stupid generations of stupid people.
Isn't this like the most highly educated generation of U.S. people we've had in all of history? I mean, they might not like politically align, but I don't think. I mean, like we have schools that people from all over the world come to go to. I think there are some decent parts of the U.S. education system. There's definitely parts that can be improved, but.
You know, I think that definition of the most educated is a very general and broad statement. I think that you see a lot of deficiencies in the school system. You know, I read that, I forget which city it was. All the schools in this city, in a state, I don't think it was a state, it was a city, it was a big city. Like 100% of the public school students failed. I think it was math or a couple subjects. They were gone, you know, flunked. And, you know, that's a measure of disaster right there.
Yeah, if that was the case somewhere, I would definitely say that is not good, for sure.
You know, in the end, and I think this is where I get a lot of disagreement with Pxie and on her progressive view of the federal government can come in and save the day. It's like, no, it's federal government is going to fuck everything up. You have all that money and you distribute it between the states and then have the states deal with it. I think it's a much more efficient because there's a lot more control and a lot less bureaucracy, and you have an efficient running state.
Well, I mean, like, don't the states basically run like K through 12? Do we feel like the states are doing an amazing job of that? Like, I feel like they'd be more critical of our K through 12 education than our college education. I could be wrong, but that would be my feeling.
They get federal funds. It's administered through the education department. I don't think the states have.
But the states get to dictate their curriculum and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but the flow of the money is not like the states control it. It's all through the Department of Education, and there's a lot of loss of money there when you follow the money coming from the federal government through dispersed to the states.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's
so just do away with the Department of Education and give it that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if they're losing money coming from the federal government, we just take the money away. They're just going to be doing worse, right?
I don't think they would. I think if, like, for example, Florida right now through the Department of Education gets X amount of money. So let's do away with the Department of Education, and now they get X amount more because you don't have to pay for all these bureaucrats that work in the federal agency that does nothing. So you have more money and more autonomy to educate and take care of the people in your state.
Well, idea is that the federal government is like oversight, right? So you have states that would theoretically. You don't think there are states that theoretically don't value education, or it's not one of their top priorities, and they're willing to.
Come again? I'm sorry.
Do you think that there are any states where education might not be a priority, and instead of focusing on funding in those places, you don't think that they might misappropriate or misdirect funds without any oversight?
My cynical self will tell you that no state cares as long as they have those teacher unions controlling everything that happens.
But obviously,
like the shutdowns. You know, it was because of the teachers unions that all these kids had to wear masks and got the school shut down and all that, and that's child abuse.
Do you think wearing the mask is child abuse?
Yes. Number one, because they don't work, and number two, because kids are at the lowest risk of dying from COVID.
Hold on, wait, just a couple things. The teachers' unions didn't want, I don't think they wanted children to wear masks to protect the children. They were worried about them getting sick. I think that was the scary thing for teachers, especially because a lot of teachers can be older, right? But I think that when we look at when we say the teachers unions don't care about the kids, they just care about teachers. That's probably true, but that's what a union is supposed to do, right? The union is not there to advocate for the children. That's the federal government's job. The union is there to advocate for the workers that belong to the union, right? You wouldn't want the unions to be working for the kids. The unions are just supposed to be there to protect the teachers, right? Police unions don't exist to protect people that get arrested by the police. They're there to protect cops because that's their job, right?
Of course, that's a bit different, but with the teachers unions, and that's where you have the problem with, as happens with other industries, is that you have a very powerful entity that gets a lot of money and has a very big sway over policy because they're a powerful entity with a lot of money.
Yeah, but would you get rid of all unions, or do you think all unions are bad? Because every union, police union, or at least from what I remember from my city, police unions and firefighter unions are basically determining elections. If you don't have the support of your special services, you're fucked, or emergency services. Yeah.
I think to a large extent, because of labor laws or new labor laws, I think unions have outworn or outlived their usefulness, and right now they're just powerful lobby group, and because if you go back, you just started because of horrible employer conditions and no rights and shit like that, and it was evolving, and it did a lot of good at the beginning because people started getting employee rights and stuff like that. So in that sense, laborers were very useful. Now they're just powerful lobby groups, and they're just like any other the health insurance companies. They're a lobby group.
Yeah, but if health insurance and everybody else is gonna have lobby groups, shouldn't workers? Isn't that kind of the point? I feel like corporations are making so much money today. Don't we want labor to be represented? Sorry, go ahead.
Again, I don't think health. I think lobbying is a very corrupt system, and I don't think that you should have entities with so much power influencing government in that way. And I have no idea how to fix it. But people should start. We should start talking about how to rein in these special interest groups, because they're making shit happen, and it's not for the better. And there you have insurance companies setting policy on how it works, and it's not working, but they're making a lot of money. And then you have teachers unions doing the same thing, just holding sway over what decisions are made in terms of children's education, and it's not helping any. So I think that in that sense, I don't like lobbyists, and I don't like special interest groups. They don't do any good except promote what they're getting paid for. When you have something that's too powerful, it's not good.
Sure.
Be it federal government, which is incredibly powerful right now, and
corporations and workers are incredibly powerful too, right? Depending on what you're talking about, right? The labor union for teachers is very powerful against the federal government when it comes to negotiating teacher stuff, right?
Yeah, but I think that they'd be covered by labor laws. What else do they need protection from?
Well, labor laws aren't going to help you negotiate a better wage with an employer, right? As long as they're not literally enslaving you. It's not like they have any incentive to pay you more or to pay you better.
I guess you could form a group and try to get a better wage, but then when you have mandatory union membership and all that shit, and then everybody has to pay in even though they don't agree, and then politics and senators and stuff and donating money to campaigns, that's when it goes all to shit. But if it's a union that's just really going to fight for the rights of the workers and not get into politics, then I don't have a problem at all with it.
Well, necessarily you're going to be political if you're a union, right? You have to probably have some kind of political positions on things, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, but your interest should be the well-being of your teachers, so that it's something that's direct with the employer, which are the schools. But when you start going into the federal government and try to manipulate policy and stuff, then you're not being a teachers union, you're getting into politics.
Arguably all workers' rights has to do with politics, but
no, better wages, politics, it's better pay.
Who just joined?
Someone joined?
Yeah, I heard it. Who was it?
I don't know.
Hold on. Why don't you fuckers say who joins when I ask who joins? You maybe click over. Oh, Dees. Okay. Gotcha.
Dees, yeah. Hold on.
This guy. Gotcha.
Okay.
It was my monitor. With the sound was connected to my monitor. I had to switch it.
Oh, hey. Well, what's up?
Okay.
The monitor is fucked up again.
Do you believe in lobbyists, Destiny?
Yeah, of course.
That's something you guys disagree on.
All right.
I mean, I think you have a right to have like your voice heard in front of the government, and sometimes some of the issues are too complicated for politicians to sort through on their own. So I feel like there's a legitimate place there for companies to have, you know, representation, saying like, hey, like I want to talk to you about this particular issue that I think is important, and this is my pitch for it. Essentially, I think companies should be allowed to do that, especially on complicated issues. Yeah.
I just think that it's the system is totally abused and it doesn't work right now. So we need something. It needs to be fixed somehow, and I don't have the answer. But the way it is done now, it sucks because at the end of the day, the average Joe is the one that gets screwed.
Maybe. I mean, I guess it depends on what the lobbyists are lobbying for. I feel like the issue really isn't with lobbyists. I feel like the issue is people just don't like sometimes what's being lobbied for. Like, arguably, climate change stuff should help the average person, but not everybody feels that way, right? So a climate change lobbyist group might be like, oh, well, we're advocating for the common citizen, but if you're really anti-climate change, then you might think like, well, no, they're not. And that's just like another form of corruption kind of, right? So I feel like the issue isn't always with lobbyists. I feel like, or lobbying in general, like ideologically, I feel like sometimes the issue is just that people don't like what's being lobbied for. Yeah,
well, yes. I mean, there's a lot here that you just said. But the like climate change and you know, I'm all for green energy and I like green. But when you start lobbying to make policy, to make changes that are unreasonable, just in the name of scaring people that the world is ending because of climate change, that really sucks. That's bad and it's corrupt, and nothing good comes out of that. And that's what's happening now with the climate change. Oh, you're anti-climate change, you're a lunatic and you don't believe in it, and crazy. And I, by view, it's become a religion for many. And if you don't believe in climate change, you're a heathen, and all that crap. And you know, it's crazy because there's a lot of.
There might be some people that legitimately believe in that, right? We believe in freedom of speech. That's their right to advocate for that issue in front of the government to be heard and have them petition the government for, yeah. Yeah,
but then you know they start influencing policy that's going to affect me because they're a powerful special interest, and then you have these politicians that are benefiting from shit that won't affect them but will affect me.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all of everything you advocate for is going to be advocating for policies at the end of the day, right? Like, you don't have freedom of speech if you're not allowed to advocate for policies. Policies are the whole reason why we advocate for anything, right?
Yes, and we go back to what I said, a few minutes ago. All that's good, but when you have too many powerful or too powerful, and it gets corrupt, and then everything goes to shit. So it's okay to lobby and try to get, what you would like to be done, but it gets to a point that it's an abuse of the system. It doesn't work.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, I'm just not sure what we define as like abuse of the system.
It's like, okay, so now we're gonna kill coal because we need green energy. So we're gonna obliterate an industry and fuck all, learn to code is what one of these idiots said. You have all these coal miners that are out of jobs and everything because now we're going to go green, and we're not ready for green. So it's like it's so fucked up what's happening with energy, and at the end of the day, it's higher energy prices, and coal's gone. It doesn't work. All these solar panels and windmills and everything, it is not enough. They freeze, like it happened in Texas. In California, they're having power shutdowns because the grid, there's not enough green energy for it. So there's a lot of examples, and it's like, so why the hell? Or more recently, we're going to stop being energy independent, and we're going to ask Venezuela and Saudi Arabia for dirtier oil because we won't produce.
So a couple things. Firstly, I don't know if oil is dirtier than coal. My understanding is coal is like literally the worst form of power I think that can ever exist. I think coal is way worse, is way better than oil. Number one. Number two,
of in the name of green energy, shit that they're doing, they're killing industries, and they're making energy more expensive for us because of green energy. And the irony of it all with Biden is that he's wanting to buy coal from Venezuela, which is oil from Venezuela, which is really dirty, and he's going to Saudi Arabia to try to convince them to not raise prices, which is absurd because all he has to do is let's do what we were doing to be energy independent, and we were fracking and we were doing other shit, and it worked.
Yeah, I think that so here's like a big problem we criticize. Like I think that there are valid criticisms that we can make of how aggressively we push alternative energy in the United States. I think you can make those valid criticisms. But on the other hand, if we would have listened to people saying like, oh no, we're not ready for green energy, we can't push this that hard, we need to just stay with fossil fuels forever, we wouldn't have companies like Tesla, right? Like Tesla probably exists almost solely off the backs of those energy credits that we get for buying electric cars, right? So that's a whole industry and a whole innovative thing that came out of the United States from beloved US inventor Elon Musk that probably only happened because we had the positions on climate change and on pushing renewables that we did. So I mean, like, I don't think it's always perfect. I agree with that. But I think there are times where it's like massively beneficial that we did, push as aggressively for alternative energies as we have. And other countries that we always say are doing better than the United States because they're more aggressive about, like China, are making even bigger investments into renewables than we are.
But this is the thing. You don't kill an industry that provides a shit ton of jobs, and you don't go buy dirtier oil to get there, to get that green energy that you want. And Elon Musk, well, he's getting tax credits and he's getting a lot of incentive to create the Tesla car, but no industry is being killed for him to advance with what he created.
I mean, the whole automobile industry theoretically is threatened by electric vehicles, no? Like, right? Those are people that are going to lose their jobs. Those are he's trying to do that, selling directly to citizens instead of going through car dealerships. So everybody that works at car dealerships are going to lose their jobs. There's a reason why they don't like the model that Tesla's going for, right?
That's private industry. And it's funny because then the car lobby is like, no, you need to go through a dealer. And it's like, I don't want to go through a dealer. I want to sell direct to the people. Why can't I sell direct to the people? So you have the car industry lobby coming in and saying, no, that guy has to sell through a dealer. And I guess he got resolved because he's not selling through a dealer. He has his own dealerships.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying that these are examples where, like, just because we're killing off jobs, I mean, jobs come and go in economies. Like, that's just how it works, right? Like, you can't hold on to every single job forever. Like, there are going to be industries, there are going to be people that do fossil fuels that are going to be phased out, who aren't just going to have a place in the new economy. But I mean, like, there are people that were really good at mining resources with their hands, and now we have machines for it. Or people that were really good at working in offices, and now we've got computers that do a lot of that work. So I mean, that's just the nature of an ever evolving and adapting economy, I think.
Yeah, but it's I think the comparison is wrong because, again, for Elon to create his car, no industry was killed, and he was able, he got the government incentives, he created the car and everything. Then he got into a fight with the car dealers, the car industry, because he wanted to go direct to consumer. So you have that, but then to have a government say, you know what, we need those solar panels now, so let's fucking kill coal and no more coal because we need the solar panels now. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Would you say that isn't every single electric car sold harming the automobile industry? Like every single electric car sold by Elon Musk is a car is.
No, it's product. Some people like it, some people don't, and you have the power to choose.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if you're a traditional car manufacturer, then
you innovate.
What?
You innovate or you lose.
Well, yeah, but what about then for coal miners? Isn't that the same argument? You innovate or you lose? Because the only reason Elon was able to sell so many cars initially was because the government helped him. The government said, hey, if you go and buy an electric car, you get, what is it, like a $4,000 tax credit or something for buying electric cars? Like if you were a traditional car manufacturer, you'd probably be using the same arguments. Okay, well, this is bullshit. Like you're phasing out our jobs, you're hurting our production because the government is here giving this huge push towards Elon Musk's electric vehicles that aren't even really competitive with us yet, right? But as a result of that, now we've got arguably the most successful electric vehicle manufacturer in the world because the government pushed it so much, even though there are some downsides, but I mean.
Yeah, but it's for your argument to be valid, it would have had to be the government saying, car manufacturers, we're going electric. So either you manufacture an electric car or you don't manufacture any more cars. Because this guy in a few years is going to be coming in with a bunch of electric cars. And this is the future. So no more gas cars, electric cars. Because that's now you're making a more valid comparison with what happened with the coal industry. We need solar panels, not innovate, nothing. Just you're done. No more coal. Done. And that's crazy. That's like a swift kill of a shit ton of jobs and an industry. And that didn't happen with cars because they've had time to innovate and they decide whether they want gas or electric, and you have a choice. Now you don't have a choice with energy because you don't have a choice for coal because Obama killed it. So, at the end of the day, it's not the same. I don't.
Okay. I think we're kind of looping on this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
But, the irony of it all too is that there's not enough lithium to power all the batteries that we need for all the cars, and lithium mining is super dirty.
I mean, I'm sure we'll figure it out. We seem to be inventing new technologies every day to help a lot of these electric vehicles and stuff. So, but
somebody that's worried, that's really worried about climate change and all that crap, and that's not an acceptable answer. Oh, we'll get it done eventually.
I mean, even with the pollution created by mining the lithium for batteries, it's still way better for the environment than having a little mini oil power plant inside every single vehicle, right?
Well, that's the other thing is that what's powering all these batteries? It's electricity, and where the electricity is coming from? Oil, and there's not enough green energy to power all the cars.
Not yet, but again, it's going to be way better powering a car with central power plants rather than having a mini power plant in every single car, which is what a combustion engine is, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, I love electric cars, and I'll get one eventually. But all this talk about it's green and all that might be in the future, but right now, whomever believes that an electric car is green,
I mean, they're greener than combustion engine cars right now.
Well, I don't know. I haven't done the math, but what it took to create that electric car is how does that compare with the combustion engine?
I think it's like after you've driven an electric car 2,000 miles or something. It's a very low amount. Like you've already basically saved more on the environment than for a combustion engine car. It catches up pretty quickly.
You're taking into account
all the lithium mining for batteries, all the creation of the advanced technologies, all the harvesting. Yeah, it's for sure. You just have to imagine that having a mini power plant on a little vehicle is going to be so much more disastrous when it comes to pollution than powering things with central power plants located in massive scalable infrastructure like power grids, right?
I don't know if I buy that argument because the emission controls, you don't have. Cars are not that dirty.
Cars are really dirty. Dirty.
I mean, they were really dirty before federal emission controls took a hold.
Another thing the government did good. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but it's not a.
That's okay. Andy, continue. Focus.
That's a law that was passed. That, you cannot pollute, and you need to put all these converters in your car and all that shit, so they don't pollute.
But I'm pretty sure the government regulates.
But that's not an agency that was created to.
I'm pretty sure there's an agency.
It's part of the EPA.
It's part of the EPA, yeah.
Yeah, it's a federal agency. It's a government. Okay.
Yeah, where were we?
I think we're done.
You want to kick me out?
I'm gonna kick you out.
Destiny, great talking to you.
Yeah.
I told Andy, whenever you're near, let's go have a beer and talk and hang out.
Yeah, sure. I think you guys are pretty close, so sometime, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're close.
Cool.
And he can go. I don't want to say the name, but he can come
Okay.
here.
You already saw
Let
the
us
name.
know.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Bobby.
All right, Destiny, take care.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, before I leave, I have a question for you, Destiny.
Yeah, what's up?
What gave you the impression that I was a communist?
I know you're a communist. Listen, you're denying it now, but that's okay. It's all right. I'm not here to judge you, okay?
Or not? You're fucking. Because I'm pretty sure I've said this explicitly multiple times.
You might
You
not be,
think-
okay? Do what? Say that again? Sorry.
I'm hiding my power level or some shit.
Damn, I don't know. Do you guys think Pxie's a communist? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe you're not.
No, I'm offended because I've said that. Do you disagree with anything I said about the for-profit motive, or how do you define communism? Or like,
No,
I
I
don't know
think I agree with everything you say, but maybe I'm just. It feels like all progressives these days have to be like fucking Marxists or like socialists. Like that seems to be almost a requirement, but you know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're not. I guess.
didn't you label yourself as progressive earlier, and you're not a Marxist?
Yeah, but it's hard to label myself as progressive because everybody is, like literally a fucking socialist.
Do you think AOC is a Marxist or?
I think she is. Yeah, she doesn't advocate for it now. Obviously, she's chilled a lot since she's gotten into Congress. But
Okay, this is gonna sound like a dumb question, or maybe it is. How do you define Marxism, or what's a Marxist to you?
somebody that doesn't believe in liberalism fundamentally, somebody that believes in like socialism or communism, I guess.
Okay, and that means like no profit motive at all, like getting rid of like capitalist or like.
Yeah, they go down that road basically. They don't believe in like the profit motive. They don't believe in free markets. They don't believe in. They believe that like labor is fundamentally an exploitative relationship that necessarily has an immoral actor scraping profits from laborers, basically.
Okay, well, just to let the record show, I don't think profit is inherently evil. I just think there's certain industries where if it gets in the way of what the industry is supposed to be doing, it probably shouldn't exist.
Okay.
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 It was nice talking to you.
Yeah. Do you argue with your dad a lot about politics?
All the time. I'm kind of like burnt out from it because I swear to God every single day. He was so much more chill here than he is when he's talking to me, not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
Like he said crazy ass shit to me, so I was very surprised that he was just like so toned down when talking to you.
Yeah. That's probably pretty normal, I think, right? When we argue with our parents, it's always like way more intense. But that's because you guys probably already know each other's positions like really well too, so you can just like go fucking hard, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's at least he likes you a lot.
Yeah.
He's not a crazy, stupid liberal, whatever. You should have seen him argue with Aaron. It was interesting.
Well, Aaron's a cunt. I can imagine that was a lot more intense.
She was nice to him.
Oh, okay, never mind. Good job. Was it a more intense argument though?
I think so. Or she was like, what is it? A lot more like confrontational. So they got into it like more deeply, like quickly. But I don't know. I think my dad could argue with everyone in general. Sometimes he gets mad when I start streaming again because after arguing with people for 8 hours, I don't want to argue anymore. And then he gets like upset that I don't argue with him after I argued for 8 hours.
Aww.
Yeah.
How sad. He just wants to be part of what you do online.
Well, yeah, no, he doesn't like it because he wants to monopolize my argument time. And it's like, I don't even have the energy to argue with him as long as he wants to. And then he thinks he wins, but he didn't win. I just got tired.
Yeah, that's a win to me.
But yeah, maybe I'll, I think it'd be interesting if we like live streamed with you and him face to face. I think that would be interesting to say the least, but we'll see.
Yeah, sure. Wait, is Erin there right now or no?
No, she's not. I'm trying to convince her to get here, though. I'm like, just move here. Easy.
Is that? Do you think she will?
I think she's like open to the idea because she doesn't have really anything like attaching her to Texas. So I think we're close, but not there yet.
Gotcha.
Well, have fun talking to Dees or whoever.
Yeah, always. Have fun. Peace out.
Bye.